Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the semifinals and finals of the Chess.com Classic. Now, yesterday I won both my matches against Levon Aronian, as well as one other player whose name is escaping me right now, and that put me in the semifinals. Now, in the semifinals, I was playing against the famous two-time challenger for the World Championship, Jan Nepomniachtchi from Russia. Now, the format is the same as always. It is a 4-game match with 10 minutes plus 0-second increment. The winner will move on to the finals. So in the first game with the white pieces, I had a very boring draw, and we are going to pick up this match in the second game where I'm playing with black. So the game starts with the move c4. I play e5, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, knight c6, and now we get the move g3. Now this, of course, is the classic 4-knight system in the English opening with c4 and e5 being played, and now I play the strange move knight d4. Now, the reason behind playing knight d4 is you might think, well, wait, this is a free pawn. White can take the pawn. However, there is a big trap behind this idea, which is that I can play the move queen to e7, attacking the horse. Let's say you move the horse, normal move, and after knight to f3, this suddenly is a smothered checkmate. The king has no squares available, and you can't take the horse because the queen would capture the king. So white should go f4 here, but after d6, knight d3, and bishop f5, black is going to castle. White is lacking in development here. All these pieces on the back rank, and black is already much better. So Jan plays move bishop g2. We trade the knights, bishop b4, queen b3, I go a5, castles, and now I play the move bishop c5. Jan plays knight a4, and here I go bishop to a7. Now in this position, we get the move d3. If white were to try and take this pawn on b7, this would be a very serious error because after rook to b8, it's uh-oh spaghetti-o time. The bishop or the queen will fall on this b file, and white will lose the game. So we get the move d3. After d3 in this position, here I play this move castles, we get c5, and now I play the move d5. Now in this position, Jan plays move queen c3, and all of a sudden you'll notice that even though I have this big black center with the two pawns on e5 and d5, the white queen is attacking both of these pawns, and suddenly it's very difficult to defend them. So here I play the move bishop to h3. Now again, this is a 10-minute with no second increment game, so you have to be very careful about when to use time, when to go quickly. I thought this was a very critical moment because I'm trying to figure out what my plan is to avoid losing a pawn. So I go bishop h3, we get rook to d1, and now I play the move queen to e7. Now, as you'll notice from the evaluation bar, this move is a mistake here. Computer wants queen to d7 attacking the knight because after white takes the pawn, apparently I can play this move h5, and suddenly with the queen and the knight on the side of the board here and also pressure on the a file, apparently black is better. Now, would I find this without knowing? Very, very unlikely, especially in a game where there is no increment and such little time to begin with. So I go queen e7, we get bishop g5, I play the move c6, reinforcing this pawn on d5, and now Jan takes the pawn on a5. I play h6, we get takes, and now we get the move knight b6. Here I play the move queen to d8, a4, and now I go f5. Now what's happening here after queen b4 and takes is that white is up a pawn on the queen side, but I have this big black center. I have all these pawns in the center of the board, and because of that, I thought I should be in the game. So I play the move queen to f6. Now this is a very critical moment because I was actually very concerned during the game about this move queen to h4 because white is up a pawn on the queen side, but if I have to trade the queens off here, we're headed to an endgame and I'm simply down a pawn. Now, after takes and the move rook to f6, h5, e4, bishop g2, bishop g4, and the move f3, bishop takes h5, white is apparently better after a5 and a6. Now, I saw queen h4 during the game. I was really hoping Jan would find it, and luckily, he did not play it. Instead, he goes for the move a5. Now, the reason I was very fortunate he didn't play queen h4 is that even though I'm down a few seconds on the clock here, I have a very obvious plan of pushing this p on the king side and opening up the board immediately. So I go e4, bishop g2, takes, and now I play the move f4, trying to create the legendary connect 6 with f3 on the next turn. Jan plays king h1, I take. Of course, at this point, I don't go f3, because after a move like e3, queen to e6, white can simply trade, and after, say, I want to say rook d6, queen h3, and rook to g1 here, there's no lolly checkmate on g2, and white should be better. So I trade the pawns on g3 and trade on d3, and now I go queen e5. Now I'm still down a pawn here on the queen side, but the pawn on a5 is always a potential weakness, and the fact that I have the open f-file for the towers, the queen attacks the pawn on e2, means that I have very, very good compensation. Now, I didn't necessarily think that I was much better or winning at this point, but I thought that based on the time situation, the easy plans that I have, I should get some chances. So we get rook e1. Now I go rook to f2, creating the classic kebab on the second rank. We get rook to f3, and now I play the move rook takes e2. Jan trades and goes queen to f4 here, and now I played the move king to h8. Now, in this position, I could have already played a move like rook takes a5 and simply made a draw by repetition here, but I felt that it was worth it to keep the game going, primarily because in this position, I have this passed pawn that can go up the board. The white king is very weak on the edge on h1 here. b2 is weak, and it felt like there should be no danger of losing the game. So here I go king to h8. Now this move in fact does nothing at all, but it's a very nice waiting move because now white has to figure out how do you guard the pawn. How do you guard this pawn? There are no checks on f7. So it's a very nice waiting move, and Jan plays the move b4 here, and this is the start of making some mistakes. After b4, I play this move d4. I start pushing my p up the board, trying to promote and get a queen, and here white cannot take the pawn as you lose the rook and the game with it. So we get a6 here, and now I play the move queen takes a6. I think this a6 move from Jan was a bit of desperation. He didn't see a clear-cut plan. He might have seen rook f2 and thought that after check, queen b4, suddenly a5 and b6 are falling, and he's not going to save the game. So Jan plays the move a6. I play queen takes pawn, not rook takes, because again, there would simply be a repetition and a draw. So I play the move queen takes, we get takes, and now I go queen a1. At this point, this forces an endgame where I'm going to be up a pawn in the situation, a 4 versus 3 endgame. Now, I don't know if this is actually winning by force here for black, but at any rate, the fact that I'm up 1 minute on the clock with no increment, combining that with the position where I'm going to be pressing, makes this very, very difficult to play for white. We get rook to f4, guarding the pawn, and now I play this move h5, we get king f3, and here I play the move rook b5. Now, this is a great place for the rook here. The rook guards the pawn support the rook here. So everything is guarded, and at this point, I thought I would win the game. We got g4, takes, here, rook e4. I bring my king closer, and now I have this king on the f file. Now, this is not winning by any stretch here, but I figure eventually I can start to push the pawns up the board. The real key is saving this g for h pawn or getting a trade, because if I get a situation where I'm able to reach something like this, actually, let's just say we get something like this, the chance of winning this position are much greater here because the king is off sides, whereas at the start of this, when we go back here, this h-pawn, if white can keep an eye on this pawn on g7, this pawn can provide a lot of counterplay. So in this position, we get rook f4, I go here, rook d1, check, king here, check. Apparently here, I could have gone king f6, which was winning, but at any rate, I go king f7. We get check, king g8, rook e4, rook d5, and now I put the rook back on b5 here, where it spies the pawn on h5 and the pawn on b4. Now remember, this is no increment. If this game were being played with an increment, a lot of the decisions already at this point would have been different by both players, but you're trying not to get too low on time. So I bring the king up, and now I finally decide that it's time to try and push the pawns on the queen side. I go b6 with the idea of c5. We get rook d4, I go rook e1, rook f4, now I check, and here we get the move king h4. Now, I was in this position, as soon as I played the move c5, I realized that I had missed a way to force a win on the spot. I could have played the move g5, forking the king and the rook. White must go for end peasant, and after rook takes pawn, this is simply a winning endgame because we're going to reach a situation where I have one pawn up the board, but the king is cut off by so many rows, and this is just an easy win. Instead, I go c5. We get takes, rook f8, and now I play the move c4. Now, at this point, I thought I was just winning the game. I realized I can escort this pawn up the board, but this really shows how resourceful computers are and how deep the game of chess can be, because as you can tell from the valuation bar, this is simply a draw. But the technique or the idea here that saves the game is just something I don't think I've ever seen before. We get rook c8. I bring my king up, bring the king forward, we get check, I push the pawn, and now we get the move rook c5. Now, the reason that this position is a draw is what white should do here is simply wait with the rook on the 7th rank, spying this pawn permanently. And when I go king d2, there's a very nice idea, rook d7, then king c1 with the idea of c2. What is white doing? And now white has the remarkable resource, rook to a7. And the point here is that if I push the pawn, there's rook to a1, winning the rook here. So I can't push the pawn, but I also have the problem of the rook guarding the pawn. So this rook has multiple ideas here to create the classic box, and this position is just a draw. If I go here, white checks. If I bring it up, white just waits forever. The moment that I put the king on b1, you check the king over, and now you go back, and there's nothing I can do. If I play the move rook g2, trying to dodge the rook a1 check, now white can go king to h3, attacking the rook, And again, I have the problem with this pawn on g7. So I go here, white goes here, and now I simply have to make a draw. I can't go back because of rook a1, so I can't even go rook g2 here. That means that this position is just a dead draw. Fortunately for me, Jan plays rook c5, I go king b2, rook b5, and here I make a slight inaccuracy with king c1, which does allow white to play rook a5. However, if Jan had played rook a5, I could have brought the king to a3, and now if rook c5, I have king to b3, check, king c4, and then I push the p. White goes check, same thing, king b4, with the idea of c2, and it's GG, why not? So Jan goes rook c5, I push the pawn to c2, and at this point the game is just over, as I'm simply going to move the king and push the pawn. Jan plays rook c7, king d2, check, and after king to e3, he resigns the game, because ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the classic ziggy-zaggy. I'm going to bring the king all the way back, and the pawn is just going to promote the rook covers the square. So after rook c7, queen takes, I have an extra rook, and I win the game. So everything is looking great for me. I win this beautiful second game. Of course, it's not as beautiful as I thought it was at the time due to this resource which saves it, but I win a beautiful second game. Now this means that I'm ahead 1.5 in the best of 4, and now in the third game I have the white pieces. Now what we're going to do is, since I have a lot to cover in this recap, is that I'm not going to go through this third game from start to finish, but this game is really about psychology. Now remember, I'm up by 1 point at this moment in the match here. I want to be somewhat solid, but ultimately I feel like this is a moment where I can go for more. So I take with the pawn, I have the 2 bishops here, I think I'm controlling this only open c file, and I think all's well that ends well. We get knight f6. I go queen b7, Jan plays knight d5, and now I play the move queen a7. Now this move might not be a losing move, but after the move queen to f4, suddenly this position becomes very dangerous because there are ideas like queen to d2, attacking this bishop and the rook, and white has some issues. So here I go bishop c4. Now Jan plays the move queen to d2 after 15 seconds, and I actually realized as soon as I played this move bishop c4 that had Jan played the move bishop to d6 here, lining up the double A battery, I was probably going to lose the game. Now, the computer says I can take on d5, and apparently after takes, there's queen d7, and the show goes on. But what I had calculated initially when I saw this move bishop d6 was g3, queen d2, and the move bishop a3. Queen guards the bishop guards the rook, and I should be fine. But as you'll notice, if I play the move bishop to a3 here, I thought there was a move queen a2, although apparently here there's b4, and now white's fine. So actually, it's funny because the move that I thought was a blunder, but not for the reason I thought, which is that apparently black can trade and go knight to c3 here. And apparently black is much better. Don't ask me why. I think it's because all the pawns are very weak here. There's knight e2, there's b5. The bishop, the rook, and the pawns combine to create a lot of threats. But Jan plays queen d2 quickly. So I take, he takes, I go here, bishop f6, bishop c4 takes. And the reason this is so important is that I saw bishop d6 and I thought I was losing in the game. And because of that, the nerves and just this uncertainty, it leads to a situation where I make a couple of more wrong moves, and ultimately I go on to lose this game very badly. What I should have played was g3 here and king g2, just creating this nice setup with the king and the rook guarding the pawn. Instead, I play the move a4, h4, I go queen d6, g6, and now I play the move h3. Maybe not the end of the world, but after this, it starts going downhill in a hurry. We get king g7, f4, Jan plays queen e3, I go here, bishop f6, and now after rook to d8, out of nowhere, I'm suddenly much worse, if not just lost. Add in the fact that I'm down a minute on the clock, and this is a terrible situation to be in. I have this weak pawn on f4. Black's king is very safe. All these pawns cover the king. The rook is infiltrating on the file, and I simply lose in short order. So I play a few more moves, try to survive. Eventually, Jan lines up the classic double A battery combined with the rook on d4, and all these weaknesses on the dark squares. I play rook c1, bishop b8. We reach this endgame, and inevitably I lose here after a few more moves. We get this position with queen e5, check, check, queen b2 here, and now I play the move queen c2. We get queen d4, queen e5, and after the move queen to e1, I resign because when I go king f3, there's queen g3, checking the king. If I go back, black takes the pawn. If I go forward, there's f5 check, king d4, and bishop c5, simply checkmating the white king. So this is a complete disaster. I lose this game, and I was simply heartbroken. I'm not going to lie. I thought that I would at least get to an Armageddon if I drew the third game and get to the fourth one. I lose in a terrible fashion. Now, game 4 would be more of the same. It was a very dramatic game, very tense. Ultimately, I would save the draw in the time scramble, and this meant I went to Armageddon. So in the Armageddon game, I have the white piece against Jan, and now I start out with the move knight f3. knight f6, g3. In the previous games, I was playing these e3, c4 setups, but this time I decided to change it up. We get d5, bishop g2, e6, d3, bishop e7, knight d2, knight c6, and here I make a slight mistake with the move order when I castle the king. Now what I should have played was the move d4 first, and after castles, we would get what happened in the game. Instead, I play the move castles, and now Jan makes a mistake when he castles his king. Now what Jan should have played here was the move e5, building the big black center, but again, we're in Armageddon. He just plays castles without thinking, and now I play the move d4, which is what I should have done early, stopping black from pushing the pawn. We get a5, c3, a4, queen c2, b6, and now I play the move e4. Now at this point, I have a big white center, I have the 3 pawns connected, the pawn on e4, and I wasn't sure if I was much better, but I was very happy with the position I got in this winner-take-all Armageddon. So Jan takes, goes bishop b7, and now I play the move knight f g5. Now this move is a cheesy move that you would play in blitz because it looks very flashy. You open up the diagonal, you try to threaten some checkmates here. I did realize as soon as Jan played g6 that he could have simply traded the knights because the knight on g5 is under attack, and after knight takes e4 and knight a5, black should be completely fine. Instead, Jan sort of trusts me in the split second, makes a quick move at g6. I trade, and now after knight e4, bishop g7, and bishop g5, f6, bishop e3, I can't be unhappy with the position. I have the big white center, rook's coming to the center, weak pawn on e6, and a nice diagonal as well. Jan plays queen d7, I go rook d1, f5, knight g5, and now we get the move knight a5. Here I trade the bishops, and I play the move c4, we get h6, knight f3, and now Jan plays king h7. Play rook e1, knight d6, knight e5, queen e8, and now I play the move bishop f4, we get g5, bishop c1, and at this point I should have a significant advantage. I've got a great bastion with the knight in the center. I'm trying to push these pawns as well, and it's looking very, very good. So we get the move king g8. Play the move f3, stopping knight e4, and now we get queen h5, queen e2, and here Jan plays rook e8. Go knight c6, knight f7, and I play the move bishop e3. Now this move is not a move that I was happy to play here, but I figured with this great knight on c6, I have this bastion c5 ideas, it remains very imbalanced, and I should have a chance to win the game. Remember, in this Armageddon game, if I don't win, I am eliminated, or at least I'm not eliminated, but I guess I'm in the loser's bracket. So I don't really care as long as the game keeps going. Jan instead plays queen g6, and now I go f4, stopping black from ever playing the move e5. We get the move king h7, king h1, and Jan starts repeating with the king dilly-dally. Here I go queen f3, we get knight d6, and this is the moment where Jan makes a huge blunder. Now I think Jan was feeling the pressure on the clock, thought that I was going to try to flag him, so he plays this move very quickly, but this is a careless move, because after the move knight to e7 here, I fork the king and the queen. Black must capture, but now you lose the rook on a8. And after this, we get king h7, queen a4, and here I have a rook and a pawn for the knight, so barring something crazy, I should win the game. We get knight e4, queen c2, queen h5. I move the king because I don't want to hang this pawn due to the pin. We get queen g6, b4, rook d7, d5, d5, takes, c5, takes, rook f7, and now I play the move bishop d4. Now here Jan sacks the bishop for the pawn on g3. The main reason is that if he trades the bishops, sure, he doesn't lose immediately, but he is going to lose the game with no counterplay. And the fact of the matter is, you have to go all in here because it doesn't matter. If you lose the game, it doesn't matter if you lose right away, but if you can maybe confuse your opponent with some counterplay, then that would be worth it. So Jan sacks the bishop. We get this position. I play rook f1, rook e7, and now I play the move d6. We get takes, c6 here. I'm trying to push the p. We get queen h5, and now I play the move queen h2. Now what I probably should have played here was the move c7, simply forcing the pawn through. If black takes, then I win the game because it's a check. And if black checks, I offer the trade of the queens, and after takes, I have an extra rook here, and I should win this 100 times out of 100. So I go queen h2 instead. We get queen f7, and now I play the move rook h3, queen e6. Here I go rook c1, trying to force the pawn through. Rook c7, bishop b6, rook c8, and now I play c7. Jan goes d5, I bring the bishop back to d4, f4, and now I swing my rook over to b3 with both the idea of rook to b8, trying to trade off the rook, but also rook b6 to hit this pawn on h6. Jan plays queen g4, I block, I go queen h3, g4, queen h5, knight g3, and now I sack the rook for the knight on g3 here. And when I sack the knight for the rook on g3 in this position, when when I sack the rook for the knight, sorry about that, you guys, just making sure the sound's good. We get pawn takes rook, and here I go queen to e5, and at this point, with the double A battery, the pass pawn on c7, it is GG, why not? We got queen f7, I play rook f1, now I play a4, rook e8, trade the queens, king g6, takes, h5, rook d8, rook e1, king g2, h4, and now I queen the pawn, and here Jan Nepomniachtchi resigns the game. If you go check, I take, and I'm going to mate in a few moves. If you go check, I simply bring the king closer, and there will be a checkmate due to all the overwhelming power I have. So, I get a very, very big win against Jan Nepomniachtchi in the semifinals, same as the previous event, the Chess World Masters, and that means, drumroll, we are back into the finals of the winner's bracket, where I'm playing against Magnus Carlsen once again. So, we are going to pick up this match in the first game. Now, I'm playing with the black pieces. Again, I have a lot of games and stuff to go over, so I don't want to get too bogged down in the weeds, but we're going to pick up this game on move number 12. Now, this game starts out with this classic box opening, d4, d5, c4, c5. We get takes, knight f6, e4, takes, check, bishop d2, takes. And temporarily here, white is up a pawn on c5, but I'm trying to argue with the two bishops and ways of pressuring the center. I should be okay. So we get bishop g4, rook e1, knight d7, and now Magnus plays move h3. Now in the third game of the match, he would play the move b4, but here he goes h3. I take, bishop f6, rook e2, rook c8, Magnus goes rook c2, and now I play the move knight a4. Now at this point, white is still up a pawn, this pass pawn on d5, but due to the activity on the c file, the bishop and the knight pressuring the pawn, I'm feeling pretty good about my chances. So we get b3. I go knight c3, Magnus plays rook d3, and here I play this move knight to e4. Now, the move that you might be wondering is, could I have played b5? Now, the reason I did not play b5 is white will sack the rook, and after takes, let's just say rook c5, white will go king c2, and with these two connected pass pawns here, even though white is down a knight for a rook, these pawns are going to play. Eventually, this knight is going to start running over to b3, the pawns are going to be unstoppable, and I will lose the game. So that is why I played the move knight to e4. Magnus goes d6. He could have played something like, I don't know, like rook d1, but after knight to d6 here in this position, bishop d3, I can even trade and play rook c8, and even though white has an extra pawn, it is blockaded by this knight. It cannot move forward, and there's no way I will be in any trouble. So we get d6, rook d8, d7, rook c6, and now Magnus makes a huge mistake with his move knight to d2. Now, I think at this point, Magnus was looking for a way to keep the game going, because effectively what's going to happen is, say white goes rook e3, I go knight d6, I'm going to gobble his pawn, and the game is going to end in a draw. So Magnus plays knight d2. Now, this move is clearly a blunder, but in typical Magnus fashion, even though this is a mistake, he's still not lost on the spot. So I go bishop g5, pinning this knight on d2. We got f4, takes, rook d4, and now I have to take, and after king d1, miraculously for Magnus, he is not losing this game on the spot because I have no way of guarding the knight and the bishop at the same time. I'd love to go f5 here, but I can't because of the pin, so I have to play bishop a5 instead. We got takes, king e2, and now is the moment where probably I should have played the move rook to f6, cutting this king off so the king is stuck in the middle of the board. Not saying I would have won this game necessarily, but I would have had decent chances. Instead, I go rook d6, and after the move a4 here, white has now planted this bishop on c4. It can't easily be removed, and the fact that I'm down a minute on the clock makes it just a little bit too difficult to win. I go king g7, king f3, check, rook f4, go back, Magnus plays g4, and the main issue I have here is that with no increment, I have to either move really, really quickly or use my time and try to create something, but I don't really get close here. The game ultimately is going to end up in a draw here. I keep playing on, Magnus forces a trade, opposite color bishops, I go here, and now, inevitably, I finally decide at this point to trade the rooks because here I'm down to 59 seconds. Magnus is 2.5 minutes. If I don't end the game now, I might get flagged. So I trade, go a5, b6. Eventually, we reach this endgame. I play f5, and here I put the bishop on b4, which means that I can now pre-move forever with the king, and the game will end in a draw. And with 50 seconds, there's no chance of a flag. So we get this, I eventually give up the pawn, but I just keep moving this king, it really doesn't matter, and the game does end by repetition in a draw here. I will just move this king for 50 moves because white can't do anything on the queen side. So a very tough break for me in this first game because I felt like I had a chance to beat Magnus. He was showing vulnerability, but ultimately the game ended in a draw. Now in the second game, there was maybe a brief glimpse where I thought I might be better in a bishop versus knight endgame, but it would end in a draw as well, meaning the score is tied 1-1 as we go into the third game. So once again, we got the same opening here. Magnus decides to play this e4 line. We reach this position, and ultimately here Magnus plays rook e1, and after knight e7, he goes for b4. As I mentioned before, in the first game of the match, he would play this move h3, forcing me to trade my bishop. Here Magnus plays b4, and now I play this move a5. Now this move I realized right away was probably not the best move, but I played it anyway. We get rook takes e7, I take, Magnus goes h3, I take, and now he goes for the move rook d7. Now it's very clear to me that in this line, Magnus has tunneled on this idea of trying to take advantage of having these pass pawns far up the board and sacrificing material when he goes for this move rook d7. Here I take, and now I play the move bishop d4. I do think Magnus overlooked this bishop d4 move here in this position. I think he thought that he was just much, much better after like rook c8 and knight b3 here, because now the pawn is guarded, and again, white is pushing p here, and it looks very dangerous. So I go bishop d4, Magnus plays knight e4, and here I take, and Magnus plays move d6. Now this is a very important moment, speaking of psychology, not just position on the board, because I will say that when Magnus played knight e4, I thought that he had blundered bishop takes c5, that he just missed knight takes and rook c8 here, and black is going to win some material. It's probably still within the realm where white is going to save the game, but black should never be worse, and if anything, black should be better. But Magnus plays d6, and this is kind of where I relax a little bit too much. I play this move b6 relatively quickly, thinking that I'm completely fine, and as soon as the move knight g5 is on the board, I realize that, I'm in some trouble here. This is not an easy position to play. Now, what I should have played here, it's not an obvious move, is probably I should have played the move b5 here, and after bishop d5, there's a very awkward move b3, sacking the rook, because if white takes, after pawn takes pawn, the bishop covers the a7 square, I'm getting a queen, and I'm going to win the game. Now, would I find this in a classical game? Maybe. In a blitz game, especially one with no increment where you have to manage your time very carefully, I think the chances of this are close to 0. So I go b6, Magnus plays knight g5, and now I suddenly realize here that there's no way to get rid of this pesky pawn on d6, and white is combining the forces towards this pawn on f7. So here I played the move king g7, a move that I played relatively quickly. I spent a little over a minute, I think, on this move. I considered playing the move b5, which is apparently the best move, because after bishop takes f7, rook takes f7, knight takes f7, there's rook takes a2, and maybe black is okay. I wasn't really sure about this, and again, you don't want to spend too much time. Maybe I should have thought for 3 or 4 minutes here before playing the move king g7, but I ended up going for this after a very short think. Now Magnus plays the move f4, and this is an all-star move for Magnus. Now, I did not really understand how strong f4 was during the game. I thought maybe we'd go check, take, and then play f4, but after g5 in this line, black is completely fine, because if white goes g3, I trade, go king f5, and with these two pawns being very, very weak, there should be no way to lose the game. But the problem is when Magnus plays the other order with f4 here, he still has all these ideas with knight f7, knight e6, and now I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. So here I play the move h6. Magnus checks, I go here, takes, and now the whole idea or the reveal behind f4 is shown, which is that white has time to go king e2. Remember before, if we go back here, after knight to e6 takes here, I'm threatening to go king e5. So white has to go f4 to stop me from going after the pawn. But in this other variation here, it's quite different, because after I go g5, white can play king f3, and suddenly my king is not getting in, and now I'm just going to lose the game. And I actually kind of already sensed it at this point. I trade, I go h5, we get g4 here. Maybe here I could have played bishop g1, but honestly, with the time situation, the fact that white's getting this pawn up the board, it just feels very hard to play. So I go h5, we get g4, takes, play the move king g6 here. Probably I should have played the move bishop g1, but again, I'm trying to move quickly. I don't want to get flagged, so I play king g6. We got bishop b3, bishop g1, Magnus checks, I go over, it goes back, and here I play check, king e4, and now I play the move king g5. Now, apparently, after the move bishop to g3 here, if white goes king d5, I think there's rook c8, and maybe black is okay. Frankly, very, very tough to find at this point. I'm already struggling. I'm down to 246. Time is ticking. This is just difficult to play. So I go king g5 instead, and now after Magnus goes king d5, the white king is getting in. This pawn is going to be free to push up the board, and it's all but hopeless. So I take, we get rook e7, rook c8, d7, check, bishop c7, and now Magnus goes for rook f7. Rook to e8 also would have been winning here with the idea of pushing the pawn, but Magnus decides to take instead. I go rook c6, rook f8, check, king e4, king g5, not takes, by the way, because then there's bishop e6, winning this rook on d7. So here I go king g5, bishop a4, I play b5, takes, rook d2. Important, by the way, that I go b5, because if I play king g6, rook c8, the bishop guards the pawn, and now this bishop has no squares remaining on the diagonal. So I go b5, creating at least some oxygen. We get takes, rook d2, rook c8, and eventually I end up losing this game. We get this position. Here I probably should have played bishop c7, trying to bring the king back, but I go bishop b6, we get king e5, check, king e6, king g6, rook g8, rook c8, and now after this move, bishop c4 here, white guards the pawn, I go bishop c7, rook c8, bishop d5, and here I resign because the bishop guards the pawn, it shields the file, so on the next turn, white is going to queen, and after takes, the bishop still guards the pawn, and white has an extra bishop. So a very, very tough loss in this third game. I had one or two moments in that middle game where I had some chances. I think ultimately, as I look at this game from the black side of this opening, I think it's completely fine and playable. But in this time control with no increment, it requires absolute precision. I think playing this super precisely in a no increment situation is asking a lot. So I'll probably look to change something tomorrow. So I lose the third game, and now this takes us to, drumroll, the fourth and final game of the match. I'm trailing by a score of 2-1, and I have the white pieces. Now, based on the fact that I've been down on the clock in all these games so far, I decide that in this game, I'm going to channel my inner Jan Nepomniachtchi, meaning that I'm going to play very fast throughout the game. So I open with knight f3, g3. I decide to play d3, e4. We get this weird kind of Sicilian, and now I play the move knight g5. Magnus plays h6, I go back, knight c6, and now I play the move f4. We got e6, c3, bishop g7, queen e2, castles, and now I play the move g4. Now, on top of playing very fast here, I'm also trying to go all in at the very start, because again, I'm in a situation where if the game is a calm draw or whatever, I lose the match anyway, so I might as well throw all caution to the wind, but also in this situation, I want to experiment and try to put pressure on Magnus on the clock and see how he reacts. So we got b5, I go g5, knight h7, takes, and here I play the move queen to g4. Now, the computer wants to move knight to d2, but honestly, I was worried at some point Magnus would play f5 here, and it'd be very hard to play for an attack on the king side, so that's why I keep my ideas open, and I go queen g4, preventing f5, as it would hang the pawn on g6. So we get this move b4 being played here by Magnus. I go queen g3, takes, bishop a6, and now I play the move knight d2. Magnus goes queen a5, I play bishop b2, and now we get the move queen b5 played after a 1 minute thing. Now, this move is not the best move. I had a feeling there's some way for Magnus to be much better here. Queen b6 apparently is best, because after bishop c1, black can sack the bishop, and if I take, it's uh-oh spaghetti-o with the classic fossil, as I lose my queen due to the check on the king. So Magnus goes queen b5, slight mistake. I go knight c4, we get knight a5, I take, he takes, I go c4 here. And now Magnus plays move e5. Here I go f5, and we get the move queen to d2, and now I take the pawn. Magnus takes, I take, and here he goes king h8. Now, the first thing that's important to note is that when I played this move f5 here, I was already blitzing out my moves, and I thought queen d2 was not a possibility, because after takes, I thought I was going to win a pawn. But after Magnus goes king h8, now suddenly there's an idea of rook g8, and I'm feeling a little bit of pressure. So I play knight b3. Magnus checks, I go here, and he plays the move rook g8, and now I go queen h5. Important that I don't take this pawn. I considered it briefly, but here black would sack the rook, and after takes, rook g8 check, king h1, queen takes h3, queen e5, bishop g7. I can go queen g3 here, but after takes, I don't know, maybe I have some chance to win this, but realistically, it feels like it should be a draw, and I'd rather go all in. I don't want to end in some position like this where the chances of winning are very low. I'd rather it be 50% chance I win, 50% chance that I lose than anything which can be drawish. So I go queen h5. Magnus plays rook takes g2, and this move is simply a big mistake. Now, again, I was trying to press Magnus on the clock here, so when he goes for the sack, I wasn't completely shocked by this. I take, get check, king h1, and now Magnus plays the move bishop c8. Now, one of the drawbacks when you're playing really fast, I would say bullet mode, is that you're doing 1-2 move calculations, you're not thinking in depth, and that means you're going to be surprised somewhere along the way. So I play rook f3. Really the only move here. The knight is under attack. If I move the knight to g1, for example, there's bishop g4 here. And now I guess I have queen f7, but after queen d3, my king is so weak on all these diagonals that it's hard to believe that I can be okay. So I play the move rook f3. Magnus goes queen e2. I play rook g1, completely overlooking the obvious move bishop g4, attacking the queen and the rook. Now, in this position, I don't know how much time I had. I had 3:45. I spent like 30 seconds thinking, and then I decided to resign. Now, this is a clear case of the Magnus effect coming into play, but a large reason that I think this happened, besides just the Magnus effect, is that I was playing this game so fast in bullet mode that as soon as this tactic came on the board, I just assumed that I had missed it, and I thought there's nothing to do. Now, had I used a little bit more time and not just assumed it was lost, I probably would have found a move which wins the game for me, which is this move, rook to g3. The move I saw was rook g4, but after queen f3, I simply lose the rook in the game, and so I thought, what else can I do? I lose the rook, or I lose the queen, that's it. However, there's a nice move, rook f to g3, creating the double stack on the file, and now if black takes the queen, I take the rook, checkmating the king with all these pieces on the file, and it's GG, why not? Now, this actually just wins the game, because the best thing that black can do here is play queen f3, and after takes, and a move like rook f2, I have a rook for a bishop here. My knight is coming to the queen side. It's a fixed pawn structure. I will win this game 100 times out of 100. So it's a great pity that after bishop g4, I just assumed that there was nothing there because I'd been moving so fast, and I decided to resign the game. Had I played the move rook f g3 or even seen it, used a little bit more time, I would have won this game and we would have gone to an Armageddon. Alas, I don't see it. I fall victim to the Magnus effect and sort of just playing too fast at the critical moment. And I lose the game, and with it, I lose the match by a final score of 3-1. Now, people might think I'm really unhappy or upset, or Magnus dominated this match. I don't really look at it that way. In the first game, I had chances. I was down on the clock, and so I couldn't convert it. In this final game, I also was winning at the very end. So I felt like I played quite well in this match. And for me, yes, I lost the match, but in my view, it's within the margins. Now, again, we should keep in mind that the tournament that matters is the grand finale in Riyadh at the end of July going into August. And in that event, if I'm within the margins and I play well, good things can happen. So I felt like in this match, I was within the margins where I could have won. In the first event, the Chess Bowl Masters, I was not even close. I got outplayed every game. It was a complete disaster. And there wasn't really anything positive to take away from it. But in this Chess.com Classic event, I felt like I had a chance. I played a lot better. And I know that if I play very well, the opportunities will present themselves. So while I'm a little bit disappointed with this final game, on one hand, I still feel like I played pretty well. I made it to the final of the winner's bracket. This means that tomorrow I'll play most likely Jan Nepomniachtchi or somebody else. I just most likely. I'll play Jan or somebody else again in the comeback match. If I win that match in the final of the loser's bracket, I will play Magnus once again in a reset, but we have to wait and see what happens before then. So, on that note, I hope you guys have enjoyed this fairly lengthy recap of the semifinals and the finals in the winner's bracket of the Chess.com Classic. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button below, and we will be back with some more great recaps in the coming days. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and have a great rest of your day. See you. Bye.